Black women say yes till it kills everything in us. Till we sacrifice our all and only. We say yes with tears, begging for thank yous that flip us off and sell our food stamps, and we still say yes. To mothers and to husbands who bully, to mothers and mother-in-laws who won't change, to supervisors and administrations that ain't fit to buff our fucking toenails, to children who cry, "Where's my daddy?" and still don't really know what's going on, to friends who borrow our shit so much they swear our shit is theirs, and we say yes, and we keep smiling like Jesus see it all. We gotta know if a crown ain't came, it ain't coming, but we let folks promise us promises anyway, and we cry in the midnight hour when we are alone and all of our shit is due. And there's only one finger to count the amount of people checking on us. Oh my God, I am nervous tonight, but I'm gonna have fun. Some of the stuff I memorized, some of the stuff I haven't. We gonna have fun. Y'all gonna have fun with me? Better have. The hundreds of residents on 98th and Bancroft, East Oakland, California knew my mother's name. It lay sweet like country yams on their tongues because she was fine and sweet and a good cook, and still is. She was that young woman who knew how to cook like an old woman and blended in with all 5 of us girls she was raising all by herself. And every Saturday night, like clockwork, no matter how repeatedly the world raped her that week, no matter how many subtleties screamed at that little black dirt road, one-horse town, Arkansas gal, my mother, she'd put on her lipstick and rouge and go broke on gin, boxed wine, and gumbo ingredients, and throw a party and laugh with all 10 of her brothers and sisters on the weekends. I got to get to know and fight and love too many cousins in one room to count on the weekends. Lord, did us little ones hate the drama and noise and the dancing and the drinking and the crying and the laughing the adults did, usually all in one night. We hated the ambulances and the cops and the boyfriends, and we hated the Mount Everest pile of dishes left for us in the morning, the bathroom, the living room, full of things the adults used to forget the hard times with. We hated a lot of shit until we got older and had weekdays worth forgetting of our own. My grandma, Osaline, she always quotes the Bible saying, "Be careful for nothing," which I once took to mean that us women were to be taken care of by God and other men. That pretty would provide, that soft would protect, that naivete would preserve me feminine, and that black should shrink. Because black is not feminine. It is not helpless. We have no tales of damsels in our memories. Our heroes look like the men they were worked like, worn like the bottomless psychic eyes that we worn like the same bottomless psychic eyes that we carry and men fear, and men do not fear feminine. That's right. But they fear women like my grandma Osaline, who always knows who and how to tell to be careful for everything, especially for the things that have absolutely no reason. My Aunt Wamelda, she always says, "You can't carry love where you carry pain." I know the two, and they were never meant to be in the same place. That's why God made heaven and the devil chose hell, because love and pain ain't never meant to be in the same place. Because pain, it'll settle for any old thing, and there ain't nothing you can do about love. My great-grandpa, Murray Adams, was the first to tell me about salvation. He was born old to me, and I had already been in the world 6 full years, but his hands were wrinkled, and people seemed to live to serve him. I always attributed that to his kindness. He always whispered his words even to women. The cotton fields and wide farms he referred to in his sermons, I never saw in Oakland. I always wondered why my mama would nod in agreement every time he spoke, since she was practically from Oakland too, was around my age when she left the South. I wondered why the 1980s thugs and the church mothers' hardened sons would yield and bow their heads under my great-grandfather's oil-drenched and blessed trying hands. I always attributed that to his non-judgmental attitude. I never heard him lead the church in holding a grudge against folks with a way of life different from ours. I was around 15 when I realized, damn, folks got a way of life different from ours and don't have a grandpa like mine. Everybody needs a grandpa like Murray Adams to tell them about salvation, to hold them real close and special, like he didn't have over 50 other grandchildren and great-grandchildren in need of the same attention and say, you know, Jesus bled and died for me and didn't say nothing about it. That's why I love him. It's only right loving someone who loved you first. Okay, so I got like this many books for sale. Okay, that's how many books I got for sale. That's it. Normally they for sale for like $10. The price is going up tonight because I gotta be on my motherfucking grind. I gotta go back to Columbia next week, so I'm gonna rock. This is stick up without the gun. It's basically what's happening. So if you also just wanna surrender, like with a red flag, you just come put the money in my hand, and that's fine too. You can leave without a book. You leave with a hello. Just put the money in. It's a stick up. Y'all look like it's a stick up. You're like, no, this bitch ain't trying to take my money without giving me a book. This is a stick up without the gun, okay? I wrote this in 2014, and I wrote it around this time, and it's amazing how every day it gets more and more relevant. It is winter and Oakland is covered in snow. The sidewalks are bleeding and some stores are still open on the holidays. Money is still green. I am still black. Power is still white. Death and taxes couldn't be more sure. In my small studio apartment building, it is always the hottest summer, and I live alone. And that's better than the dead who live with many, or so they say. Keep your smile big and your head down to keep it that way, or so they say. Don't say too much, they say too much. So much they even determine who I should be. And stealing still has that whites only sign dangling from it. I'm only allowed to buy. I have boycotted Christmas for the past 5 years. I should take no surprise when Christmas boycotts me in badge and trembling cold, just like this white Oakland winter. Listen, my words are only as heavy as my heart. And in Oakland, United States of America, your heart can only be as heavy as your skin. Your skin is covered in snow right now, and you are willing to bust through every window and make a fireplace out of 10,000 child lynching pigs to keep warm. You're willing to move to your nearest ghetto to build heat, and for the first time ever, you might muster up enough courage to speak in order to live. But that's only if you are trying to survive in Oakland. And did you know that snow could talk? It tells you of the climate's temper and what to buy. And therefore, it tells you what you can and cannot afford and whether or not you should move somewhere else and how fast. Did you know that its winds can control your pace, choke you, slow you down until silence, until death? Did you know that the cold kills even the silent? Those of us who move so little, we look and feel frostbitten, immobile, statue stiff, as if the cold knows mercy. I was thawed out to bury and survived, only to have my life threatened daily, with hopes that my tongue would freeze, with hopes that the story could tell me. But this Oakland cold, you know, it's numbed me back to all of my senses. And one day, I suddenly awoke in the summer of my empty apartment building, hearing sirens and helicopter bows and muffled sounds about some black boy named Ferguson who was executed by the law without ever having gone to trial, without ever having spent one day in jail. He must be from Oakland like me, I wonder. I wonder if he knows the warmth of being born, living, black, and dying in the same place, because so many of us from Oakland, we can't even afford to do that anymore. Ever since the snow just came and took over, and it's gotten so all of a sudden cold here that the streets are bleeding ancestors and crying tear gas, and the cotton-colored sky is adorned in helicopter bows, and the wind is whistling with new white neighbors that all hum in a gentrified tune while holding signs that say Black Lives Matter, and the snow is still falling, still asking, since when? Black mother, don't you hold that child of yours for too long. You're going to spoil him, and he's going to grow spoiled. And the day will come when he walks outside your door into a world that rejects him completely, and he might hang himself for feeling. You got to punch him in his chest. Tell him he ain't shit. That way he'll survive. Sister, don't you make that man feel like no king. The day is going to come where he realizes that you are the only thing that he can rule. And he might curse and beat you for all of the things that have cursed and beat him. Sometimes love has a hard way of recycling, like birth. Sometimes life comes at you wrapped around your neck like an umbilical cord, and that same life can end with a noose or a bullet. But we're not in charge of life or death, only love. Auntie, don't love that black boy too hard. You're going to make him gay. And the world already sees him as less of a man as it is. See how he feels like he got to be tough in everything that he does? See how he refers to the slightest touch of his knuckles to another man's knuckles as a pound? You hear that rap song where he's saying that the only thing feminine about him is his mothering aunt, because he knows that you love him, sure, even though you fear to love him too hard. Mother, keep your eye on that little girl of yours. She running around with them toe-headed boys. She gonna end up loose or queer. And watch out for them fast-tailed girls she been hanging with. They'll teach her how to talk herself out of every chance of marrying. They'll teach her how to love herself till her head grow the size of 4 asses. And then she'll feel like she don't need nobody. She'll grow all stiff-necked and big-bellied and have a son and raise him with another woman. And they'll be so disappointed when the world shows them that that child was never theirs. Our children are only here for the lynching. I'm gonna let y'all breathe. I feel like I'm holding you hostage. Let you breathe. Okay.
You was holding no punches tonight.
No, I'm not holding punches. I'm not, unfortunately. So I wrote this. I was hella inspired in New York, old New York, not this new bullshit. And I was really on my like Langston Hughes shit, like just writing characters out of people I saw, interactions I had, and I had an interaction with this woman. And I almost feel bad taking the credit because these are really her, this is the whole interaction. But, you know, I wrote it. So I'm taking the credit, you know, it's all my brilliance happening. A woman around my mother's age got onto the subway train with me. She seemed to have hidden her wrinkles and aging skin somewhere in the big purse that she was carrying, and she smiled like she just found out it was possible. She had a short-cut synthetic wig on and cinnamon skin and a little girl's eyes. And a long rose sprouted out of her purse, and it caught my attention. The stem of the rose was bright and green, and the thorns had been shaved without interrupting the color. The bottom of the rose was yellow, the middle of the rose was white, and the tips of the rose was pink and in full bloom. I said, "What a nice flower." And she said, oh, this? A young man gave me this rose. I was in the back of McDonald's. You know the back of McDonald's on Rockaway? Oh, you don't? Okay, there's a dark corner there, and I was just sitting there, just eating my meal, just eating. And this boy, he just kept staring at me, just staring. And he had this rose in his hand. And he walked over and he said, "Here, this is for you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because it is yours." And I just thought that was so sweet, you know, just so sweet. And you should have seen this young man. He had hair like yours, you know, and saggy pants and tattoos all over, and a scar across his face. It looked like it just grew up with him, but still so sweet. And you know, I've just been trying to protect this rose. As soon as I came out of McDonald's, it began to rain. It's gotten so cold all of a sudden. I've just been trying to protect this rose before I get home. I live in Jersey. Oh, no, honey, I'm from Kingston. It's the capital, so almost every Jamaican in New York is from there. Not really, but yeah. But look at this flower. It's standing so strong, so beautiful. Not one petal has cowered. And you know, I don't know that young man from nobody. But I know Jesus, so I just say Jesus gave me the rose. Do I think that young man could have been Jesus? Honey, they done call him everything else. Thug, nigger, gangster, inmate, prison cell, baby daddy. Why not Jesus? You know, why not? Jesus gave me the flower, and I sure do love him for it. How am I doing on time? If you've never really had, I'm gonna get on your helmet. Two seconds, Tongo. I love you so much. If you've never had a real conversation with Tongo, you're missing something in your life, because when it gets real deep, it gets telepathic. Like, you really, yeah, you know what I'm saying, you feel me? Motherfucking. It's just, you'll get it, totally. You'll read minds in this bitch. He will help, he will elevate you, All right, I was having writer's block, and I asked Tongo for a prompt. And his prompt was, if you were a panhandler, what would your last request be for? This is what came from that prompt. There's more to fear than poverty. God, for instance, is a tricky concept always dangling at the end of a prostitute's teardrop, soaked in smooth on the back of her pimp's hand, repeated in a trick's prayer before sex is exchanged for currency. Currency is the negative energy that got me outside. Some mistake my fortune for fate, but my fate seems to be that I am far from fortunate, but blessed to know the truth when I see it. Some doctors have called me psychotic. But doctors don't know much. I'm psychic. I first saw today when my mother gave me a silver coin and told me to get something I wanted. I rushed to the store, seeing everything and nothing all at once. A piece of candy wrapped in clear plastic that made the sugar sprinkles shine like a shooting star. It twinkled at me. I shoved the quarter at the clerk like I knew what I was doing. I thought I got a fair deal, trading in one shiny thing for another. I thought I got a better deal because what I got tasted sweeter than that silver coin. I skipped home to find my mama crying soft tears, saying we didn't have enough money for our own place no more. That's when I learned about how tricky fortune is. While I was sucking on that sweet candy to a bitter rhythm in front of my mama, when in less than 5 minutes, it had taken me 30 seconds to spend every penny she gave me on what I thought I wanted more than anything. In the blink of an eye, my desires changed, my world changed. Church folks who pass me on the street, before they give me what they can spare, they tell me, God don't never change. That's how I know they don't know much. I've seen God change according to how I smell. On days when I'm too sick to stand in line at the shelter to get a clean blanket and a shower, I'm God, covered in earth and street shit, feared, avoided, approached all at once while collecting offering. Some folks would tell you I'm describing the devil. But folks don't know much. That's why I talk to God. I've seen more cold than I've felt and felt more darkness than I've seen, so I know a monster when I see one. Monsters are green with two sides to them. And they possess people into being possessions and monsters and prayers for monstrous things. When I hold out my hand, I know what I'm asking for, but I can control the monsters from here, little by little, thought by thought, as long as all I have is me. I can't turn into some of the newbies I come across out here. I ain't been scratched by the monster since I sold my soul for sugar with magic sprinkles. And ever since I got it back, it's the only thing I beg to keep. I'm gonna give y'all one more. Don't forget the robbery situation you're in. You're still in it? Okay. The girl you call a hoe, she was strangely made. Kleenex for hands, ribbons for eyes, an ebony-built rotting house for a mouth covered in notices of condemnation. Maybe that's why her legs stay open. Her hair, shackles that cost too much money to unlock. Her cheeks tired but loose enough, but she'll still turn and give you the other she got steel for a chin. A forehead as immovable as her past. Her ass was made of cash the moment God spoke ears into existence. She heard she came here to suck and fuck without question, to bend and mend without hesitation, to consider everybody in this world except herself first. Maybe that's why her legs stay open. Mind you, no closed fist created the rose petals and concrete she became, but no open heart created the... She is fearfully and wonderfully designed. She is told she was eternally made by God, but the God she sees in everybody she shares her body with allows them to demonize her as a hoe when she is love. Suppressed in a feminine mystery box, nobody's really trying to get to know. Maybe that's why her legs stay open. She was strangely made. 2 planets for arms, infants for hands, bad memories like the backs of her hands. A pathological liar illegally squats in her gut. She got too empty, too open, always begging, always dreaming, wishing wells for thighs. And her feet, although they should be rolling stones, are just bloodied flesh and bone. She is crackling under the weight of herself. Her feet only dance for rain. Her feet provokes floods from her eyes. This girl cries for a world she lives in but has no idea exists. She was strangely made, got a ghetto for a mind, can't fathom anything beyond Haight Street in San Francisco. For her, Africa is a head wrap. Asia is where they make most of the shit in her apartment. A college education is more fortunate folks dangling a carrot in her face. And love is just something men say when they need a place to live for a while and their baby's mamas are sick of their dumb shit. Love is something the preacher preaches while his hand is on the last dime in her wallet. Love will never have to do with crucifixes and sacrifice. For her, her whole life is sacrifice. She was born without humanness, given strychnine for breast milk, chloroform for a lullaby, a prison cell for a cradle. For her, love feels like 240s and a blunt on a front porch in Oakland on a July night. Love tastes like her grandmama's rice pudding. Love smells like sex. Love sounds like he's about to come before she does. For her, love looks like a pawn shop diamond, a raggedy white dress, every insulting family member as guests to witness that she is a deal worth closing. Maybe that's why her legs stay open. Thank you. So I'm gonna introduce this giant, lovable, beautiful man right here. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. You think you smart. Let me tell you, you think you know something. You don't know shit. But you gonna learn today. I love Tongo so much. It's so personal. Don't fuck with Tongo. Don't do it. It's so personal. He is brilliant. He is one of the most humble people on earth. He has the biggest heart on earth, and he is one of my best friends in the whole fucking world. Y'all give it up for Tongo Eisen-Martin.
A lot of God can happen in 3 seconds. Not much heaven, though. Here is a man before a fight, a leave me alone type character emerging from the penniless death of a one-way street fiction. That is a fancy way of saying I'm going to make it even if I have to drive backwards. All I have is chord changes and 1,000 backhands, driving a street like I'm choking it, car full of nephews, hasn't been a sun since November, and there hasn't been a street I can't choke to death. This city better back down. You see this gun on the table? And something about staring until it all feels stable. Why wouldn't I protect everyone on my death sleep late? My son better be quick. My daughter better shoot first because we fall for no one. You know, we fall for nothing. Okay, the first thing you'll feel is the heat. This lady would telling me about possession. Drink life need is what I mostly hear, and most of the world leaves me alone. To breathe smog like a giant, to go to jail every once in a while, when a genocide kicks up in late May, when politicians have too easy a time. I'm gassing backwards out of one-way street in honor of myself and in honor of you, if you understand the nature of the world. And how long I've been just like my father? One hell of a resemblance, says the anxiety of 5 minutes is crossroads, a crossroads narrative, so much crossroads, people get in the habit of turning back. Turn back only to find themselves remembering me, but not my last words, a man before a fight, you'll feel the heat. But there's nothing to keep in mind. There's nothing to remember, really. There's nothing to be, just this moment, then another, then stare. Then it all becomes stable, then the table legs go fuzzy, and Friday's an unfamiliar face peeking in the window. It's cool to panic for a second. Composure is wasted on your worst enemies. People are marked on that sidewalk. You the only thing life-size. Everybody knows this in a wire hanger empire. When the blood stops walking, that feeling isn't father enough to be permission to fold. You better swing one more time. That father of yours rose from the grave and said, just give me 5 more minutes. He said, running water is a myth. It's us who are running up, down, and all alongside this water. And people don't rise from the grave. They not laid down neither. It's us who flip all around their body. So beware when the people around you all look like they about to jump. It might be your time. You'll feel the heat, you know. And when 4 walls demand to be 4 walls and the earth outside mutes, don't panic. Don't try to recreate the earth outside. Don't tell jokes to yourself. Don't even talk disrespectfully to the 4 walls. Instead, unclench your fist and walk away. There might be heaven if you understand the nature of the world. From a 2-floor skyline, an abandoned house talked to me. It said, young man, you are heroic and 10 years old. Among 20 generations of friends, friends will free fall away. They will free fall up. They will free fall the walls with 5th grade speed to industrial paint. Behind secondhand fences, young men use quick knife tones. Be bone and brass. Be last laugh music. You always leaving. Always want to change your clothes. Change your clothes from the door, a life and escape. A 2-floor skyline says you're the guy that dies in the middle. The friend more blues than skin. The face that cheap hotel schizophrenics can place with 90-mile-per-hour right eyes among dry heat killers once children, 3 feet high and roaming and repeating and aiming at cotton mirrors that hang on breathing walls. You were 10 years old. tagging along, yawning at well-lit violence, whistling tool shop songs. You will be useful. You will be high and alone, flying on a nephew dragon from a $20 family in the sky that calls itself just more soil. Around walls that are just walls, except these walls suggest you make wives out of highs and currency. Here the air is polite to sleepy glass and bullying walls. Hey, young man, you will come to admit that sometimes suicide is power, because some people live stronger as ghosts. And sometimes the afterlife empties. Billions of souls enter objects like playground bullets and abandoned door frames. Even broken glass will prove it has voice too. And there are 24 hours behind your back. And look over your shoulder right now. Can you hear it? The sound of drums punching themselves out. The sound of piano parts learned in between assassination attempts. Be bone and brass. Be bone enough for two souls. Be invincible again. Suffer red-eyed accents, professional fingertips, gifted victims, 6 in the morning beer, the first month of probation, to shout at the wall, see these words that shouldn't be home, look behind you again, be invincible again, be Winwood, be a sad machete, be your son, be a thief, steal his back, laugh too long, never look away, you know, the afterlife will empty and walk you home. If you reverse the car any farther, you will run over all the scenes in the back of your mind. I never cared for teachers, just the patterns of their fainting spells, of course, induced by wall art, all that to say propaganda is courage. The price sticker hides my tattoo. I treasure my problem with the world. My mother becomes from Brooklyn first thing in the morning. That's a proverb around these parts. Proverb or peasant entrance password, writing short notes to famous Europeans on the back of postcards with ransom requests. They reply with a newsreel or a cigarette announcement. I can't tell the difference. Noble dollars, then you die inside, but only inside. They call it sleeping deeper than your stalker, and stalker's all that badge makes you. Says a great spirit dressed in the bloody rags tuxedos became. Meanwhile, my punch is feared by no one. Proud of yourself, I ask my fret hand. Porch lights is what they call our guns. I've seen this house in a dream. I believe a trumpet was the first possessed object to fly. Keep going, she cheers. The draft in the room becomes a toddler obsessed with an altar. The altar becomes a runaway train. I got 1,000 paintings like these cascading down my skinny arms. Dictionaries piled up to the window bars, a reminder to the population that your blanket can work with or against you. Human reef. We would be a big human reef of concepts that finally gain a metaphysical nature, and they would swim around our beautiful poses. We stopped being flashbacks, then stopped being 3 different people, then I was alone, the pistol 1 city away. One of the drug triangle's lines runs through my head. I tapped the bottle twice and considered the dead refreshed. And don't you want to rest your bravery? And don't you want to be a coward for a little bit? Back and forth to a panic attack with no problems nor fears. A man gets a facial expression finally. A Friday finally goes his way. His life is finally talked about happily in his head. I can't possess the body of a hermit. I must be the last of his smoke now, running the other way with 3 blocks of alley tucked under my arms. You ever see a man get to the bottom of his soul in a car ride down a missing cousin street, half step to the right? I mean, I took the whole car outside of history. Half step to the right. I mean, a whole pack of wolves stepped to my left. Road marker is what I call the light bulb we have for a sun. A whole civilization might slink to the sink, or a chain gang shuffling next to a sucker. Also known as the long look in the mirror. Stack of money starts talking from 4 cities away. The end. You know, apparently too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place.
Come on.
This dream requires more condemned Africans. Or put another way, state violence rises down. Or still life is just getting warmed up. Or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions. Or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. You know, this is the worst downtown yet. And I've borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback phase. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me. I threw it at the first bus I saw eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line number, then on out the front of the White House. Hopefully you find comfort downtown, but if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. A special species of handshake lets all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. This coffin needs to quit acting like those are birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings. have no voice other than that of a white world dying. There are book pages in the gas pump, catchy, isn't it? The way 3 nooses is the rule, or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes, or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean, only to find waves made of 1920s burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. Red flowers, but what's the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Book titles like Hero, You'd Make a Better Zero. Or, hey, fur coat lady, the president is dead. Or, Pay Me Back in Children. Or, they hung up their bodies in their own museums. And other book titles pulled from a drum solo. Run here, hero, lied the hiding place. All the bullets in 10 precincts know where to go. There's no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means that people did it and people do it. Understand that when in San Francisco and other places that were never really there. I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. It's just 6th and Mission Street. All know who's king. King of thin things. You know, like America, I'm proud to deserve to die. I'm gonna eat my dinner extra slow tonight in this police state candy dispenser you all call a neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind a murderer's insomnia or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police sirens. A tour guide through your robbery, he also is. Cigarettes saying, look what I did about your silence. Ransom water and box spring gold this decade is only for accent grooming, I guess. Ransom water and box spring gold, the corner store must die. War games, I guess. All these tongues rummage junk. Now, the start of mass destruction begins and ends in restaurant bathrooms that some people use and other people clean. Are you telling me there's a rag in the sky? Waiting for you, yes. We've written this thing, we set a stage, you know, we should have fit in. Warehouse jobs are for communists, but now more corridor and hallway have walked into our lives. Now the whistling is less playful and the barbed wire overcrowded too. My dear, if it is not a city, it is a prison. If it has a prison, it is a prison. Not a city. When a courtyard talks on behalf of military issue, all walks take place outside of the body. Dear life to your left, the medieval painting to your right, none of this really makes an impression. Crop people living in thin air, you have 5 minutes to learn how to see through this breeze. You know, when a mask goes sideways, barbed wire becomes the floor, barbed wire becomes the roof, 40 feet into the sky becomes out of bounds. When a mask breaks in half, mind which way the eyes go, you know they killed the world for the sake of giving everyone the same backstory? We're watching Gary, Indiana fight itself into the sky, old pennies for wind, for that wind feeling you get before the hood goes up and over your headache. Pennies that stick together, mocking all aspirations. Stuck Together Pennies was the first newspaper I ever read, along with the storefront dwelling army that always lets us down, where the Holy Spirit favors the backroom souls in a situation that offer 100 ways to remain a loser. Souls watching a clock, hoping their eyes don't lie to sad people. What was we talking about again? The narrator asked the graveyard, 10 minutes flat, said the graveyard. The funeral only took 10 minutes. Never tell that to anyone again, man. You just gonna pin the 90s on me? All 30 years of them? Then why should I know the difference between sleep and satire? You know, the pyramid of corner stores fell on our heads. We died right away. That building wants to climb up and jump off another building. These are downtown decisions. Somewhere on this planet, it's August 7th, and we running down the rest thinking one more needs to come with me. What evaporated on Earth so that we could be sent back down? I'm off to make a church bell out of a bank window. Kitchens meant more to the masses back in the day, and before that, we had no enemy. Somewhere in America, the prison bus is running on time. You won't lose your job before the revolution hits. Somewhere I won't be home for breakfast. Everyone out here now knows my name, and I won't be turned against for at least 4 months. The cop in the picket line is a hard-working rookie. The sign in my hands is getting more and more laughs. It says, the picket line got cops in it. I can take care of those windows for you if you want, but someone else got to go inside your gas tank. It was clear to me that rich people had talked too much this year. Why don't you go ahead and throw down that marble park bench everyone's looking up at? You know, get the Romans out of your mind. Maybe a good night's sleep would have changed the last 20 years of my life. playing instruments like punching the wall. What would you have me do? Man, replace the population, get brotherhood back to the winter, stop smoking cigarettes with the barely dead. You know, they listen in on the Sabbath. Police called the police on me. There was a white candlestick beneath my detention. I ruined the soup again, thought the judge, as he took off his pilgrim robe behind a white people's door and more. I didn't get lucky. I got what was coming to me, he told. Say, fight me back, the man said. Of course, to himself, washing windows with a will to live, tin can on his left shoulder, enjoying the bright, brand new blight with all partygoers, both supernatural and supernaturally down to earth. And what is this elevator traveling side to side? Like 1,000 bitter Polaroid pictures that you actually try to eat all the furniture on this street nailed to the cement. Cheap furniture, but we have commitment. And this morning, an essay opens the conversation between enemies. Why? Because you control every grain of processed sugar between here and the poor man's border. Because in the tin can on my left shoulder, I can hear the engines of deindustrialization. Man, you should get into painting, you know. Tell lies more deeply. And this month, I'm rooting for the traitor. Carting cement to my pillow. Here we will build. I'm high again. Not talking much. And once you climb up the organ pipe to our apartment floor, I'm high again. Calling everything church, singing along to a courtyard, thanks to a horn player's holy pastime. Man, I'm just putting a real jacket on it, you know. Talk about a real 5 years. Keep memories like these in the pocket next to the toll receipt. That man lost a wager with the God of good causes. Stood up for himself a little too late. Maybe too early. I could still see 20 angles of his jaw zigzagging through the cold world of deindustrialization. Man, there's an art to it. I will tell my closest friends one day. When a drummer is present, they are God. I am not an I. I am a black commons. I'm writing my new tattoo out on bus station glass, making tattoos all afternoon, trying to talk myself into seeing the decade through. And I must really be the devil's front man, staring at an empty bus that I imagine, in fact, carries paintings of people. And the man drunk behind the wheel has to choose between a black and white toddler after school in America on a California street that doesn't need a name nor a California. No one on the street has a job, and therefore no one is there. I colored my oppressor's gun and dance floor for him in the same day. The joke began. The walk under bus seats is fine by me as long as I get to the front. The joke concluded. And Tuesday is rotten soup or downhill entertainment or commotion in the ashtray, the day that jail quotas get filled or the day that the planet plays flat. Maybe the capitalist sets stadium seats on fire and calls it economic progress. The communist has plenty of time to finish his cigarette and lie to his boss. A killer lying down in front of a tank. I have a small statue built in my chest and also an anchor upside down in the air. Worried about the walls, I forgot that the ceiling was closing in on me too. That's my take on my alcoholism. I am hunched over a meal I ate 5 years ago. That's my take on the look on my face. Curse got a little. Curse got a little. It took another step up the staircase and for a second forgot all occupants of the world beginning with this house. An action hero of one street proportion. You know, rap music is the way to count blessings. The 80s were better than its fiction. I will be half-eaten my entire life. I have a piece of fence meshed through my skull, always walking beside myself with a gun pointed at my head and another one that passes by, half of me or all of you walking in and out of myself, but I'm always happy to see you. What a miraculous route you took through my threat. Honest pay, might be a knife in my arm. Honest pay in my chest, a broken lock on a monument. Tell you the truth, I forget what my hands look like, what I did with them, or what kind of third eye the handcuffs cut into my wrist. The first cigarette makes this parking lot my bedside. The second cigarette makes this parking lot my front pocket. And next I hold the witness like a newborn, no half-hearted. Brittle teeth by my arc, watch how we talk in depopulated circles. Man, you caught me, said the hangman to the condemned. You caught me red-handed, but the hangman's hand kept moving nevertheless. Biting flags eastbound and other familiar sound effects, a revolutionary would call us a landless fire. The night train agrees that these are my kids. I'm just admiring your fabric, Lord. My art is rational. Therefore, my life is in danger. Traveling up the tap this time, and it looks like water was never here, just jail noise, and the jail noise politicians speak. Man, this world is weak. You know, lost its graffiti too many times. I tell the witness, All characters are in motion regardless of what that day did to your disposition. I also left that piece of good news in the ashtray next to my nickname. You know, every room has a kitchen in it. Every life has company to feed. Every room has a rumble in the corner, 8th grade heroin in my hand, along with pieces of an uncle, a purgatory grease fire, got us worried, a phone rings in 1988. An epoch begins when a mother hangs up. This is not writing poems. This is wishing carloads well. Here comes the tap water whistling past our heads. Institution tile under brake pedals, matching white watches painted on palms to smash and grab recollections. People who are related by ballad. Hot plate failures, fishing for proletarians. The matchstick that's a draft card by the time the loaner finishes sweeping the train. Also related by ballad, strips of, underpaved streets hang like strips of film in thin air. I miss the carpentry more than the religion. I tore the tattoo out my uncle's picture and lent it to my friends, one left cross at a time, life, mine behind my back. They say the child would do better upside down. The child's cake party is in the precinct, a mainstream tune playing upside down, a t-shirt with their face on it printed on the cop's thumb. All that to say 28 hours later, a headrest will do. The city rain feels like clientele. I dozed on the back of a bus and woke in the mind of a 3-story man. God wants you here with this crowbar in your hand. All of the world is a 3rd floor. Seasons invent themselves, but we invent the underground. Cause and effect is nothing but a casual venue I once played. He decided not to kill me like giving loose change. Hey, don't teeter now, tall man. I was nobody at point blank range. Nobody finally again. Lung first, I failed. A love, then a rule, then a hate. Dance moves within murder, tense within dance moves. They lean back and be celebrated by small people, he said. The clothes on my life teacher needed new patches. Sit back and disrespect it all. I've given up on counter-revolution. I said, well, then here's your weapon, little bank. And that's our father you writing graffiti on. Horn players beat him up and everyone left the altercation a better person. Knowing what you know now, would you still have written fortunes on the bottom of church shoes and put them back on the rack? How does everyone think that a rich guy is their twin? Along with other tantrums is my cue. A fortune teller half sleeps while talking about a mirror, treading over all the posters in my childhood room and how cold calculation really mothers nothing and a vision of chess pieces and chains. He says, then, my friend, you will have fear, and then you will have form. All right, we appreciate y'all coming and hanging with us. On behalf of me and Joyce, do not forget that this is a robbery. The doors are locked. Just put it right here on this lovely glass table. I'm gonna go on one more quick run and then you can give Joyce some money. Whatever you buy hers, you get mine for free. 2 for 1. We had the funeral in a garage, but I think he was long gone. A narrator on distant rooftops smoking with new friends. From beyond the vigil skyline, serious footwork can be seen, especially when loose acquaintances look at the candles and flowers with opera violence on their minds, introducing you to the colony when the concrete was in its prime and not for shuffles. 2 different dates share the same daylight. We slow walk from the corner store into a flashback, thus doing most of the talking about weird wars on the streets and whoever's fixing the drinks tonight, whoever it is must be suicidal. There's a chessboard underneath these tough guys. From beyond the vigil's jungle is the easy side of autobiography. And a pretty interesting place to start a war from. Front yards are for having problems with the world. Man, it's an easy range for the angel of everything under the sun. That's right. I can cut my throat with the sun. And hold your breath on my street if that's what you've always done. I'll tell you what his eyes say. They say all dust eventually has to be human. In his pockets is winter already. Knuckle, then wrist, then psalm. In street green letters, here lies in half asleep young skin and tattered page 1. Page 1, all staircases are open air and will be the first to talk if the poor so will it. Page 2, just pieces of subtitle, mouths talk last. Page 3, someone's dead already. Someone has taught him a psalm. Page 4, every system is suicidal, the poor so will it. Bus loops its route, last stop already. Man, let me sleep again, it's all staircase here. And I remember when we were eye to eye with the lowest branch, crying breath into the hand of an avenue, our shirts made somewhere in the land of firsthand. Trash wasn't yet trash, running away, never really was running away. Shoes would witness an informal prayer. Something like, I know you see me, what should I call you? I'll never be anything you need to forgive. And we been knew heaven years ago. Heaven becomes our street shoulders, which are his, which is a homegrown cadence on a city bus, rubber and brief eyes. He was the saint of strays, you know, the first story you learn in San Francisco. Moving with Slider Street, which is his. My little brother slides, the smoke says still. And you can tell by my tires that not everybody who's driven with me is still alive. You know, also that I like my drinks neat, bottled, and in the bus stop. Also, that we drowning in precinct paper, department store floor plans, and applications to the moon. I mean, we could change the color of our snot from gifted to heart attack and tell you about ashes, but where are all these angels coming from smelling like the cigarette that fails? And why is the man on the safe side of these headlights freezing up? You got nothing to say at my funeral, I'll speak on your behalf, heroin in my smile. Mountain made a flatland robbery among some things on my mind. The last store run in the name of shared afterlife. You know, Friday to the filter, I'm a tall tale on earth. But here's to that angel that never appeared to America. In the night, a dog paddle and a batch of hangovers looking for a home. You know, a lot wouldn't have lived this long. That's my humor when fences speak. Hone a pair of rambling dice that got unique tempers and young souls that say, shut up about our city. I hear a title must crash over a coast, why lie? The street's teeth are in pieces. There's reservoir art on the faces of stragglers. There's sad news from back home that means we have to grow up on his behalf and stumble back to a car full of last stand. The truth is stale, but still liquor. Mission Street would be proud of me. I'm a mural man, almost organized. I don't want my lungs to wake up last walking all morning if it was worth it, man. I'm 3 decades homeless. And reservoir art is all I ever see, and I'm 2,000 miles from my first fight. Maybe no one really survived. See, maybe I wrote my first poem for no reason. Guided by teeth goes this country. There's a cow's mouth on the flag. A peculiar notepad holds street life dear, but the writer's not here. He's somewhere talking to tombstones about the good old days. Or splashing reborn water on his latest face. Or wondering how his old gun is doing in the afterlife. Wondering how much death trap is in those gas station aisles. It got to be $1 million a day on this concrete island. New engine in the moon why it never goes down. I mean 72 straight hours of night. At least according to everyone's posture around here. 8:30 in the morning is really 30 minutes to closing. The city shuts down for a sleepy rat race. Elevators shoe shuffle to the nearest heaven, laughing with rats the whole way up. Man, there's scabs everywhere. You're in puddles of city and concentrated schools and TV-lit warm rooms. You know, the light reveals military fatigue when it hits just right on the ties that are wrapped around the necks of lazy white guys. Man, empire is too easy, baby. So you can chant at the walls off something if you feel like it. Best way for a target to move is shooting back. Running for a tree line made of freeways. Wisdom says, against a war machine on Tuesday, you stand no chance, but may we be the last poor men to play it safe. Cow's mouth on the flag. A politician raises his hand, and the crowd shows their teeth. An oligarch raises his hand, little girls are not safe outside. Man, you are all high, depressed, and comrades in function. In 15 minutes of closing, and the city has survived another black rebellion. We are just paying dues by trash fires not just anybody can set. Don't you love how deadly things whisper in a moment? And people kill like feathers fall while everybody's screaming inside? The writer knows that death is not a matter of dignity, rather humor. In a house that smells like roach races, nuclear percentages on torn stoves, I mean here life never was. Just lazy matches and manic inhumanity, hands rushing away from life towards stoves. What are we doing here? Surviving for no reason in particular, because nobody gone far today. Nobody will go far tomorrow. Trust me, hell and heaven cannot count. Strange gardens where secondhand clothes play, and concrete wishes to be human so that it could be accountable. Where they find you drenched, and drains wish to be human so that they could be worthy arms for you to die in. Hey, greet them all, grandson. You know, prepare for the day when every child is calm, and don't say we ghosts didn't write you a poem. Don't say we didn't dig your life. Remember the shotgun by the coat rack that everybody in the house knows how to use? Remember the tightrope made of needles for walking in between driveways and man-made best friends? Go ahead, grandson. Tune the street again. Never mind this country kills musicians first. At broken neck night, scarred neck life, if these walls could write lyrics, they say, what's your angle, angel eyes? 30 to 50 rounds pass by on a street with no daughters. This street has no sons. Just young prisoners of war in a racist city that means to make capital, and we know so much. We know it all. We were stood against walls. Who's on the third cross around here? Cow's mouth. Salivating over the street. And that is the story of why we aim at teeth. All right. Thank you very much. Joyce, feel. Definitely make Joyce feel good. You can make her feel better than that.